I'm Rob Word, and welcome to A Word on Westerns. We're today going to be talking about the Wild Bunch, but before we do that, we're going to honor a veteran of the business, somebody who just passed away and was one of the last of the big stars of the 30s. He was a giant star for a man of small stature. His name was Mickey Rooney, and our speaker right now is Rupert Hitzig, who directed Mickey in a Western. He made more Westerns than just Out West with the Hardys, and Rupert's going to tell us about that. Rupert Hitzig.
Thank you, Rob. Welcome, everybody. I call this little story Shootout at Old Guy's Corral. It was 1994. Mickey Rooney, Ben Johnson, Randy Travis, Ned Beatty, Larry Gatlin, Gloria DeHaven, and Ernest Borgnine were all in a Western called Outlaws, The Legend of O.B. Taggart. It was shot on a Western street just outside of Santa Fe, and I was lucky enough to be the director. But when I took the assignment, I didn't really know what I was in for. The script was written by Rooney, who had been married 8 times, and didn't look fondly on criticism or changes, unless it's a wife. The cast was there out of respect for the great song and dance man, and not because they were challenged by the roles. The budget was tight and the shooting schedule short. Ben Johnson was old and shaky. Mickey, as O.B. Taggart, was cranky and difficult. Gloria was as frail as a buttercup. Travis never stopped singing or swinging his 6 guns in fast draw. Larry Gatlin was having an affair on set. Ned Beatty walked alone in the hills between takes, and Ernest Borgnine walked through his takes and then spent the evenings alone. Mickey couldn't mount or dismount his horse on camera. We had to hoist him up and over the pommel of his saddle with no less than 3 grips or a crane. And most of the time we didn't bother. We just shot the close-ups while he was sitting on a ladder. His gun belt slipped down below the mound of his belly and hung there, the holster just out of reach for any fast-draw villain in the West. But as we got closer to the climax of the picture, I had a few sleepless nights. How was I going to get an exciting climax out of the fast-draw shootout with these 2 old guys? Then one night it came to me. We could simplify the climax of the story by deleting the shootout and at the same time do something that had never been seen before. What would happen if 2 men that had been pursuing each other for years suddenly realized the folly of it all and just made up and shook hands? After all, this could be a metaphor for world peace, couldn't it? But would Mickey tolerate someone else's input on the script? So a week before the shootout, I took Mickey and Ben to dinner and started slowly. When I explained the idea, Rooney predictably fumed, but Ben, in his stoic calm, told him, "For Christ's sake, Mickey, listen to the director. Calm down, let's think this through. We might even make Western history, for God's sake." By the time the dinner ended, the new peaceful ending had become Mickey's idea, and it was scheduled at the beginning of the next week, much to my relief. Now, if you've ever seen Outlaws, The Legend of O.B. Taggart, this is the final scene. Ben Johnson is at the far end of the bar, quietly nursing a drink. He sees Rooney and his 2 sons bust through the swinging doors and sidle up to the bar. They don't notice him. "Taggart." Mick looks over to see who's spoken his name with such authority. He spots Ben, his eyes narrowing with hate. "I've been searching for you for over 25 years for what you done to my sister Emma. And now," Taggart's hand curves around his fat belly, fingers clawing through the folds of his parka to find his 6-shooter. The piano player stops playing and ducks for cover. Then Ben's character unexpectedly grins ever so slightly. "You're so goddamn fat. So goddamn fat you probably couldn't even find that gun." Mick's face curls in a grimace, and then he speaks. "And you're old. You're so old you couldn't hit me with that pistol if your life depended on it, partner." Ben doesn't move, then he speaks. "What say we call this whole thing off, or someone gets hurt? Let's go outside, shake hands, and have ourselves some whiskey. What say?" Taggart looks over at his 2 sons and shrugs. "Fine with me," he answers. "I'm kind of tired of it all." And that is how our action Western comes to an end. Directing Ben and Mick was an experience and an honor, and I will never forget either of them. The gentle but always tough cowboy, Ben Johnson, died a year after the picture wrapped. Mick just left us at 93, and after the movie, never got on a horse again. But then he didn't get married again either.